Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in. The second time I saw her, she was soaking wet and standing in my hallway. Not the pool kind of wet. This was seawater. Cold, thick, clinging. Her hair hung in dark ropes, her clothes plastered to her skin. And her eyes looked empty, like they'd been underwater too long. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. I was on a cruise, not some fancy influencer thing, just a discounted 5-day Caribbean trip my job threw together as a corporate reward. They booked 5 of us from the office, 2 marketing leads, 1 tech guy, our team manager, and me. Middle of the pack admin girl, I wasn't even excited at first. Cruises freaked me out. Being out in the middle of nowhere, no cell service, and nowhere to run if something went wrong. But I told myself I was being dramatic. Everyone else seemed hyped. We boarded out of Miami. The ship was massive, one of those floating cities with 15 decks, a casino, endless buffets, and obnoxiously upbeat staff. My cabin was a windowless interior room on deck 9. Nothing fancy, but clean enough. Small bed, tiny bathroom, air conditioner humming softly in the corner. The first weird thing happened that night. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep after a long, loud dinner when I heard a knock. 3 slow taps. Then silence. I sat up. My door doesn't even face the hallway. It's tucked into a corner and no one passes it by accident. I waited, thinking maybe I imagined it. Then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. Not fast or angry. Almost impolite. I got up and looked through the peephole. No one was there. I opened the door cautiously, half expecting to see one of the drunk marketing guys playing a prank. But the hallway was empty, silent. That weird kind of cruise ship silence where everything's padded and you can only hear the hum of the engine. I shut the door, locked it, and told myself I'd just been tired. The second night was worse. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up freezing, like actual goosebumps cold. The AC had been fine all day, but now it felt like someone had opened a walk-in freezer. I reached for my hoodie, stumbled into the bathroom to splash water on my face, and saw the footprints, wet footprints, leading from the door to the foot of my bed. I just stood there, staring. They were small, barefoot, clear prints like someone had walked in dripping wet, paused near my bed, then vanished. My heart was hammering. I checked the door, still locked, deadbolt still slid into place. No water by the door itself. The prints started right inside, as if someone had just appeared there. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I tried to laugh it off. Told my coworker Kelly, who just made a face and said, "Girl, that ship better not be haunted." But later that day, I asked one of the housekeeping staff super casually, "Hey, has anyone else mentioned weird stuff happening on this floor?" The woman, maybe mid-50s with kind eyes and a tired expression, paused. "Your room number?" "342, I said. She went quiet for a second. Then she smiled tightly. "No, ma'am. Not that I've heard." But she wouldn't meet my eyes. That night was the worst. I stayed out late, trying to avoid being in my cabin alone. I went to a karaoke thing, then wandered the upper deck, watching the sea churn in the dark. It was beautiful in that eerie, endless way. The ocean just swallows everything. You could scream out here and no one would hear you. When I finally went back to my room around 1 a.m., I stopped in the hallway. My door was open, not wide, just an inch. But I always double lock, always. I stood there frozen, every instinct screaming that I shouldn't go inside. But what else could I do? It's a cruise ship. There's nowhere else to go. I pushed the door open slowly, heart thudding, and stepped in. Everything looked normal, except for the puddle on the floor. A perfect circle of water, maybe a foot wide, right in the middle of the room. And beside it, something I hadn't seen before. A cruise ID badge. I picked it up. It was warped from water damage, edges curled. The photo was grainy, black and white, almost illegible, but I could just make out a face, pale, long hair. Blank stare, name, Mara L. Deck, 9 cabin, 9342, my room. I dropped it like it burned. No, this had to be some mistake. A prank, or maybe it was old, left behind by a previous guest. I stuffed it in a drawer, wiped up the puddle, and told myself I was going crazy. I slept with the lights on, fully dressed, sitting up in bed. Sometime during the night, I woke up to the sound of dripping, drip, 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 slow, inconsistent. Coming from the bathroom, I got up and pushed the door open and nearly screamed. I was standing in the mirror, not my reflection, hers, pale, soaking, her eyes bottomless. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me. I turned and looked. No one was behind me. I looked back at the mirror, still there. I don't remember running. I don't remember grabbing my key. The next thing I knew, I was in the hallway, barefoot, banging on Kelly's door 2 rooms down. She let me in, freaked out at first, then saw my face and shut up. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she whispered. I couldn't even speak. I just sat on her bed, trembling. We went to guest services the next morning. I told them everything. The open door, the ID badge, the water, the mirror. They gave me that tight cruise smile. "We'll look into it." And told me they'd move me to a different room. A nice upgrade, ocean view. No explanation. No apology. When I asked about Mara L, they said no such passenger existed. Not on this voyage. Not in their records. I said I had her ID. They asked to see it. When I went back to grab it from the drawer, I swear to God it was gone. Vanished. Kelly and I tore the place apart. Nothing. That night, in the new room, I finally slept. I thought it was over, until the last day of the cruise. We were docked. Everyone was rushing to disembark. I was packed, ready, eager to get the hell off that floating nightmare. I was walking down the main hallway when I saw her, soaking, dripping, standing in line. No one else even looked at her. She stood between 2 couples like she belonged, but her eyes locked on mine as I passed. No smile. No movement. Just that blank, wet stare. I kept walking. Forced myself not to run. I got off the ship. I got home. But last week I checked the mail and found a small envelope. No return address. Inside was a photo. A group picture of our cruise. Everyone smiling on the main deck. And there, in the back row, almost invisible, was her. Hair soaked. Skin gray. Eyes fixed directly on the camera, directly at me. When I got that photo in the mail, I stopped sleeping for 2 days. I kept turning it over in my hands, hoping there'd be some explanation written on the back. Nothing. Just a faint water stain in the corner that smelled like the ocean. I told myself it was a prank. Someone from the cruise messing with me, maybe Kelly. But the more I looked, the less it felt like a joke. The image wasn't printed on photo paper. It looked old, almost sun-bleached, like something that had been sitting in salt air for years. And that woman, Mara, or whatever she was, wasn't just in the photo. She was half faded, like the film itself had tried to erase her. A week passed. I went back to work. People teased me for being seasick on land, and I laughed along, pretending everything was fine. But every night I heard faint tapping, 3 slow knocks somewhere in my apartment. Always around 3 a.m., I checked the doors, the windows, even the pipes. Nothing. The sound always stopped the second I moved. Then the smell started. That heavy, metallic salt and rot smell you only get near docks. It would drift through my hallway for a few seconds and vanish. I scrubbed every surface. I even checked my fridge. Nothing made it go away for long. One night I woke up to my phone vibrating on the nightstand. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but half asleep I did, static. Then a soft wet sound like waves slapping against metal. And under it a woman's voice, faint but clear. "You took my room." I hung up, threw the phone across the room. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. When I looked at the screen again, the call log was empty. The next morning I called the cruise line. I told them I'd received an old photo, that I was worried about a missing passenger named Mara L. They put me on hold for 15 minutes, then transferred me 3 times before someone finally said, "There's no record of that passenger or cabin." "Are you sure you sailed with us?" That phrasing stuck with me. "Are you sure you sailed with us?" Like maybe I hadn't. I hung up before they could say anything else. That night the knocking changed. Instead of 3 taps, it came once. Long, heavy, right behind my bedroom wall. I moved to the couch, turned on the TV, tried to drown it out. Around 4 a.m., the screen flickered. For a split second, the feed glitched into a grainy black and white image, dark corridor, low light, patterned carpet, deck 9, my old hallway. When it snapped back to my streaming show, I just sat there shaking. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted salt on my lips. A few days later, a package showed up at my door, no return address again. Inside, a cruise key card sealed in a clear plastic pouch. The name printed on it was Mara L., Deck 9, Cabin 9342, my old room. I dropped it immediately. The pouch split open when it hit the floor, and a single drop of water slid out across the tile. I swear it moved against gravity, crawling toward me before drying up. I don't know why, but that's when something in me snapped. I booked a flight back to Miami, walked straight to the port, and found the same cruise ship docked there again. Different name now, refurbished, repainted, but I recognized the hull number. I told the port officer I'd lost property on a previous voyage and needed to talk to maintenance. He looked uneasy but let me aboard for 5 minutes. Escorted. The ship smelled the same. Salt, metal, cold air conditioning that couldn't hide the damp. When we reached Deck 9, I asked him if 9342 was still there. He frowned. "Ma'am, there is no cabin 9342. The numbering skips from 9341 to 9343. He let me peek anyway. Between those two doors was a blank wall, smooth, freshly painted, but I could feel the cold radiating from it. I leaned close, almost without thinking. My breath fogged the surface. For a second I thought I heard a voice whispering under the paint. Not words, just that same slow, watery rhythm. The officer pulled me back. "We should go, miss." Before we left the deck, I glanced down the hallway and saw a trail of wet footprints leading from the blank wall toward the stairwell. The officer didn't see them. Back home, I threw away everything from the cruise. Clothes, suitcase, souvenirs, gone. I even changed apartments. For a month, nothing happened. Then one morning, I stepped into the elevator on my way to work. The mirrored wall behind me was fogged like someone had breathed on it, and written in the condensation one word: booked. I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. All I know is sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear water lapping at metal. And when I wake up, my sheets are damp and I can smell salt on my skin. Maybe she wants her room back. Maybe she wants me to check in again. Either way, I'm never stepping on a ship again. Still, when the apartment goes quiet, I can't help listening. For 3 soft knocks. Tap, tap, tap. It started as a stupid dare. Every cruise has that one night where you drink too much, talk too loud, and convince yourself you're invincible. For me, it was day 3, Caribbean sunburnt. Rum drunk and trying to impress this guy from Ohio I'd met at the pool. We were standing outside the stairwell on deck 7 when he pointed at a metal door marked crew only and said, "Bet you won't go down there," I laughed. "What's even down there?" He shrugged. "Storage, kitchens, secret crew bars. Who knows? Just don't get caught." 5 minutes later, I was holding the door open with my shoe while he handed me a flashlight app and said, "10 minutes. If you're not back, I'm pretending I don't know you." Charming. The first thing I noticed when the door shut behind me was how quiet it was. The regular decks hum with music. People, slot machines, constant noise. But down here, nothing. Just the click of the door locking and the heavy echo of my own footsteps. The air changed too. It was colder. Damp. Like the guts of the ship held onto the ocean differently. The hallway was narrow with exposed pipes overhead and metal walls that made every sound bounce. It felt like walking through a submarine. Every so often, a dim red light blinked from an overhead fixture. I passed unmarked doors, each with thick hinges and no handles on the outside. Storage, probably. Then I saw one door slightly ajar. No markings, no sound. Just cracked open like someone had forgotten to close it. I should have turned around. I know that now. But I was buzzed, stupid, and maybe a little curious. So I pushed it open. It was a long, low room lit by flickering fluorescence. Tables, chairs, industrial shelving. Looked like a crew break area, but way too empty. No posters, no mugs, no personality, just silence. Until I saw someone sitting in the far corner. A woman. She wasn't wearing a uniform. Just a plain black dress soaked like she'd stepped out of the ocean. Her hair was plastered to her skin. She sat completely still, staring at the floor. I froze. Sorry. Didn't mean to. She turned toward me. Her face was wrong. Like someone had sculpted it from memory but forgot what real expressions look like. Her eyes were too wide, her mouth too still. And her skin was the color of wet stone. She smiled. Just barely. You're not crew. Her voice was soft, but it hit me like a punch. I backed up. Sorry, my friend dared me. I'll go. She stood, and when she took a step toward me, I ran, back into the hallway. My breath loud in my ears. I sprinted past the doors, past the junction where I'd entered. The problem? The door I came through was gone. No crew only, no stairwell. Just a blank metal wall with no seam or handle. I spun in a circle, heart pounding. Either I'd gotten turned around or this ship wasn't built the way it claimed to be. That's when I heard it. Voices, whispering, coming from behind the walls. It wasn't English. Not really a language at all. Just low murmurs like breathing shaped into sound. I pressed my ear to the wall and the metal was cold. Freezing like it was holding back something dead. Then the light above me blinked out, one by one. The hallway lights died. Click, 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 until I was standing in darkness, except for my phone's weak flashlight. I turned it around. Slowly, she was there again. Closer, soaking, smiling, silent. I ran again. No plan, no map, just pure panic. I found a stairwell with chipped paint and rusted steps, went down instead of up, hoping to circle back. The air grew colder. I passed crew bunk rooms, tiny, windowless, all empty. Some of the beds looked slept in, but nothing moved. Then I reached a metal hallway with a sign that said, Deck C, Maintenance, and beneath it, in marker, Do not enter. Alone did anyway. The floor was wet. Not puddles, soaked, like someone had sprayed the whole hall down. Water dripped from the ceiling. Every step I took squelched. At the far end was a massive steel door, closed, but I could hear something behind it. Not voices this time. Screams, short, choked. Then nothing. I should have turned back, but my phone buzzed. I looked down. One notification, alert, shift begins. Sound, report to deck, see I didn't work here, I wasn't supposed to be here. But someone, or something, thought I did. The door creaked open on its own. Behind it, a cavernous room dimly lit like an old industrial bay. The floor was metal grating over black water. Dozens of wet footprints covered the floor, and at the center was a large tank half submerged. Something moved inside it. Just beneath the surface, I stepped closer and heard a whisper behind me. Found you. Hands grabbed my arms. Cold, human, too strong. I screamed and twisted, but they pushed me forward. Toward the edge of the tank, someone else whispered, Next shift. Time to clean. I looked down into the water. Faces, dozens. Pale, bloated, staring up. Crew uniforms. All wrong. I saw the woman in the black dress again. She was standing on the far platform now, smiling. Arms out like she was welcoming me home. The hands let go. I stumbled backward, hit my head on a pipe, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the infirmary. A crew member said they found me unconscious in a service stairwell. Said I must have passed out from dehydration. I didn't argue. Just nodded and asked for water. I wanted off that ship. On the last day, I waited until the ship docked. I didn't pack, didn't say goodbye. Just walked off with the first crowd and didn't look back. A month later, I got a text from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. Me standing on deck C smiling, wearing a crew uniform. Behind me, the black-dressed woman. Her hand was on my shoulder. After I got off the ship, I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not my family. Not the guy who dared me. Not even Kelly when she texted later to ask why I ghosted everyone the last night of the cruise. What was I supposed to say? Oh, hey, yeah. I snuck into a crew-only deck, passed out near some kind of drowning pit full of ghost staff, and woke up in the infirmary. But I'm fine. No one would believe me. I barely believed me. But things didn't stop when I got home. They got worse. The first sign? My phone wallpaper changed. One morning I opened it and saw a photo I didn't take. It was blurry and gray, like it had been snapped through wet glass. But I recognized the hallway. Deck C. That long corridor right before the tank room. The one with the Do Not Enter Alone sign. The image showed it completely empty, except for one dark figure standing in the far distance facing the wall. I deleted it immediately. Next day, it was back. I factory reset my phone, bought a new one, changed my number, and for a while everything seemed okay. Then I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, a crew badge. Plastic. Worn. My name on it. But the photo wasn't me. It looked like me. Same face, same hair. But her eyes were glassy, and her skin looked wet. Under department, it read midnight shift, deck C cleaning, and the badge was warm. Like it had just been worn. I started seeing them, not just one, multiple. In reflections. On subway windows. In store security mirrors. Always just behind me. Wet-eyed, grinning crew members in faded uniforms. Watching. Smiling. One time I turned around fast enough to feel someone move behind me. But no one was there. Just footprints, leading nowhere. I went back to the cruise line's website, desperate to figure something out. Something about the layout, the employee list, anything. But the ship I'd been on didn't exist anymore. No cruise by that name. No ship of that model. The hull number didn't match anything in their fleet. I started digging through forums, Reddit threads, sketchy cruise whistleblower pages. One night I found a comment on a buried post. Deck C isn't listed for a reason. It's not part of the map. Not officially. Every few voyages, someone new joins the shift. The crew never talks, but they know. Another user replied, they don't hire new cleaning crew. They inherit them. I had nightmares every night after that. In them, I was always mopping the same endless hallway. Wet footprints reappearing behind me no matter how many times I wiped them away. And that voice, soft, feminine, like water running over glass, always whispering behind me, you're already on the schedule. One night, I woke up and found water in my bed. Not sweat, water, cold, salty. My hair was damp. The sheets clung to me. I ran to the bathroom, flipped on the light, and saw her again. The black-dressed woman. The one who first whispered, you're not crew. Only now. She was wearing my face, smiling with it. Behind her, the room looked like a ship corridor. Metal walls, rusted floor, red warning lights flashing slowly. Deck C, I screamed. She didn't move. That night, I didn't sleep. I packed a bag and booked a cheap motel room 2 towns over. But no matter where I went, the wet spots followed. Dripping mirrors, faint footprints on the carpet, the ocean smell, like the ship had come with me. Last week I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. No name. No ID, just one voicemail. It was short. Water sloshing, distant metal creaking, and then, your shift starts at midnight. I don't go out after dark now. I unplug everything at night. No mirrors, no TV. I cover every drain and keep salt by every window. But sometimes, right around midnight, I hear it. Footsteps, slow, wet, just beyond my door. And once, just once, I swear I heard a keycard beep, like someone had access. Like someone was already inside. I don't know what I brought back with me. I don't know if they ever really let me leave, but I keep dreaming about that corridor. About cleaning the same dark hallway with no end. And the worst part? I don't feel scared in the dreams anymore. I feel used to it, like I belong there, like I always did. Cruises are loud. People get wild, especially after midnight. Drinks flowing, walls thin, nobody cares who hears what. But the screaming I heard from the room next to mine, it wasn't the kind of scream you fake in an argument. It was the kind that sounds like someone is trying not to die. A woman. High-pitched, desperate, over and over. Like she was being pulled underwater and breaking the surface again just long enough to scream. Then silence. I sat up in bed, completely still. I'd just gotten back from dinner and was scrolling my phone half asleep. But the second I heard it, my whole body went cold. I waited for someone else to react. Maybe I'd hear another voice yell, "Hey, shut up," or see a neighbor step out into the hallway. But the hallway stayed quiet. The walls stayed quiet. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it's a horror movie. Thin walls, nothing serious. I put my headphones in and tried to sleep, but I set a timer for exactly 3:17 a.m. That's the time my clock showed when I heard it. The next morning, I knocked on the wall between us. It felt stupid, but I wanted to hear something. A shuffle, a TV, music, a cough. Anything. Nothing. I saw the steward a few minutes later, a guy named Darius who'd been super friendly during check-in. I caught him while he was wheeling clean towels down the hall. "Hey, do you know if there's someone staying in 509? I asked. He frowned. 509? Then checked his tablet. "Nope, empty this trip." I laughed, awkward. "You sure?" "I swear I heard someone in there last night." He looked at me again, a little longer than necessary. "Sometimes the walls carry sound weird. Could have been from another floor. But I swear to you, it was right next to me. I could feel it through the headboard." The second night, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake with all the lights on, waiting, and just like clockwork, 3:17 a.m., the scream. Only this time it wasn't just once. It was 6 long screams, each one more ragged than the last. Then banging, heavy full-body slams against the wall, not fists, not knocking. Like someone was throwing themselves at the wall and/or at a door, trying to get out. I stood up and pressed my hand against the wall. I could feel it, vibrating. I grabbed my phone and recorded it, but the second I hit record on nothing. Silence. Like the second I tried to capture it, the ship swallowed the sound, and then from inside the wall, a whisper. "Can you hear me?" The next day I told Darius again. He looked more annoyed than concerned. "Like I said, there's no one in 509. The door hasn't been opened all week. Can you check? Please? Just to put my mind at ease." He hesitated. "That's not protocol, especially if it's unoccupied." But he must have seen something in my face because 10 minutes later he brought a master key and opened the door. We stepped inside. It was spotless. Beds perfectly made. Lights off. No luggage. No smell. Cold. But as I looked around, something felt off. The mirror above the dresser was cracked, spiderwebbed right in the center. Darius didn't react to it, like he didn't even see it. But I stared at it, frozen, because the cracks didn't just break, they looked like claw marks. Long, curved scratches dragging outward from the center, as if someone had been inside the mirror trying to escape. "See?" Darius said, already heading for the door. "No one's here." I stayed behind for just a second longer, and in that second, I thought I saw movement in the bathroom mirror, like someone slipping out of view. That night, I switched cabins. I told guest services I had a plumbing issue. They didn't ask questions. They gave me a new room 2 decks below. I thought it was over. I slept hard. No screams. No scratching. But when I woke up, there was a new voicemail on my phone. Timestamp 3:17 a.m. I didn't recognize the number. I played it, screaming. That same voice, that same ragged desperation, like someone was dying inches from the mic and underneath it, faint and static-laced. "Why did you leave?" I wanted to go home. I tried to get off at the next port. Told the staff I had a medical emergency, anything to leave early. They said no. Full cruise manifest. No emergency protocols met. I was stuck. And then I started finding the hair. Long strands of wet black hair. In the sink. In my sheets. Caught in my shoelaces. I have short blonde hair. The next time I looked in the mirror, there was a handprint in the fog. Not mine. And written above it, "Room 509. Help me." I started locking the bathroom door when I slept. Not the cabin door, the bathroom. Because every time I opened it in the morning, the mirror was fogged up. Like someone had been in there. Breathing, standing still, watching. And I started hearing the scream outside of 3:17 a.m. Now. Once, it came just after lunch. I was brushing my teeth in the new cabin when the sound hit. Not distant this time. Not muffled. It came from the bathroom vent. Loud, like the woman was right behind the metal grate. I dropped the toothbrush, stepped back, then I heard a voice, soft, barely audible. "Please come back." I told myself I was hallucinating, sleep-deprived, nerves shot. But the next night, I made a decision. I was going back to 509 just for a few minutes, to see it again. Prove to myself there was nothing there, that I was imagining it. I told myself it was about closure. The reality? It felt like she wanted me to come back. The hallway on deck 5 felt longer than I remembered. Quiet. Too quiet. Every other hall on the ship had people, music, footsteps, that low electric hum. But this one felt like it had been sealed off, like it had been sinking slowly without anyone noticing. When I reached 509, I stood outside the door for a full minute. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Then, I heard something, tapping, from inside the room, like knuckles on glass. Then a single word. Please. I turned the handle, the door wasn't locked, the room looked identical to before, beds made, lights off. But the smell had changed. It was sharp, damp, metallic, like seawater left in a rusted can. I stepped inside. The second the door clicked shut behind me, I felt it. Like the air had dropped 10 degrees, I went straight to the bathroom, slowly opened the door. The mirror was shattered completely now. Cracks ran to the edges. But it wasn't just broken. It was wet, dripping, like someone had sprayed the other side with a hose. And behind the broken glass, I saw her, just for a second. A woman. Pale. Wet. Wide eyes. Mouth open like she was still mid-scream. Then, gone. I stumbled back into the bedroom, and the TV turned on by itself. Fuzzy static. No sound. Then a single frame. Black and white security footage. Me, standing in cabin 509, watching myself on screen, in real time. Only, something was behind me in the reflection. Standing in the mirror, I turned around. Nothing there. I turned back to the TV. Now the screen showed something else. Footage. Old, grainy. The date stamp was from 5 years ago. Same cabin, same layout. But in the footage, a woman was pounding on the walls, screaming, thrashing, trying to claw her way out of the bathroom, and no one came. I bolted out of the room. I don't even remember getting back to my cabin. I just remember shaking so hard I couldn't hold my keycard straight. I stayed awake the entire night, and at exactly 3:17 a.m., I heard her again, not screaming this time, sobbing outside my door, and then 3 words whispered through the keyhole. They left me. The next morning, I went to guest services. Demanded answers. The woman at the desk, a new person, someone I hadn't seen before, looked confused when I brought up cabin 509. She typed something on her computer. 509's not occupied, she said. I know that, I said. But someone died in there, didn't they? She frowned. There's no record of that. But what? She leaned in, lowered her voice. There's a note here. It says that cabin was decommissioned 4 years ago after a security incident. Should have been locked. I stared at her. Then why was I put there? She looked at me, and for the first time I saw something like fear in her face. You weren't. According to this, your original booking was for 6:12. I went back to the room. Packed my bags. I didn't wait for docking. I stayed on the upper deck until we returned to port. First off the ship. No looking back, but when I got home, I found something wedged inside my suitcase lining. A photo. Wrinkled. Damp. Me, asleep in cabin 509, taken from the foot of the bed, and in the mirror above the headboard. Her face. Mouth open, eyes wild, screaming. I've tried moving, changing my number, changing my name, but every so often, at exactly 3:17 a.m., I wake up cold and hear it. The scream, not through the wall anymore, from the mirror. Excellent, you're now on. They told me she was never on the passenger list, but I have pictures of her. I have proof. I think. It was supposed to be our first real vacation together, 5 years in, and we'd never done anything this big. Never left the country, never left the continent, really. I booked the cruise to surprise her. Just a short one. 4 nights, 2 ports, clear water, umbrella drinks. She cried when I showed her the tickets. We were both exhausted from work, from life, from trying to stay connected in the middle of endless stress. We needed this. I needed this. Time to reset, to feel normal again. Her name was Erin. I need to say that out loud right away, because lately I've started questioning whether I made her up. Everything felt good the first day. We laughed. Took pictures on the deck. She wore that floppy hat I always made fun of, and she ordered this ridiculous blue drink that stained her tongue. I still have the photos. Her smiling with the ocean behind her, her flipping off the camera in front of a buffet tower of shrimp. She was there. We made love that night in our tiny room. We were drunk and silly and happy. I remember her hair still smelling like sunscreen. I remember the sea rocking us gently to sleep. The last thing she said that night was, "Don't let me sleep through the island day." The ship anchored at a small island on day 2. One of those private stops cruise lines own. White sand, rented snorkeling gear, carefully managed excursions. We were scheduled to have 6 hours ashore. I woke up early, excited, and Erin was still asleep, curled up in the sheets. I showered, got dressed, packed a little bag for us, took a picture of her sleeping just to be annoying. "Sleeping Beauty can't hang," I wrote in the group chat. Then I gently shook her awake, or tried to. There was no one there. The bed was made. The room was clean. No sign she'd slept there at all. I stood there frozen, bag still on my shoulder. I checked the bathroom. Empty. No towel, no toothbrush, nothing. I opened the drawers and nothing of hers. No clothes, no phone. No charger, no hat. Not even a hair tie. I looked at the photo I had just taken. It was still there on my phone. Erin in the bed, face half buried, hair spilling over the pillow. Time-stamped 6:04 a.m. It was now 6:12 a.m. I went into the hallway. Knocked on the neighbors' doors. One guy opened, half asleep and annoyed. Said he hadn't seen anyone. I went to guest services next. "I think my girlfriend left the room early, but she's not answering her phone and I can't find her anywhere. She might have already gone to the island. Can you check?" The woman behind the desk smiled in that practiced way. Tapped her keyboard. "What's her name?" "Erin Mathers." "Mathers, tap, tap, tap. I'm not seeing her on the manifest. She's in my room. I booked the cruise. I added her as my guest." "Can you check again?" More tapping, then a pause. "You're listed as a solo passenger." "No," I said. "No, that's not possible." I uploaded her passport. I picked the bed arrangement. She gave me that tight smile again. "Sometimes things glitch in the system. If she boarded with you, we'll have her on the security footage." Yes. Finally. Something real. She said they'd check. I spent the whole day waiting for a call. I didn't leave the ship. Just paced the deck, checking my phone, trying to call Erin over and over. No signal. When the other passengers came back aboard, I ran to the gangway. Watched every person walk up. Every couple. Every group. No Erin. I stood there until the very last family returned. Then the crew rolled the ramp back in. I pushed my way to the front desk again, heart hammering. "She's not back." She never came back. "Did you check the footage?" A different man this time, younger, cold expression. "We reviewed the boarding tapes, sir. You arrived alone." "You have been alone for the duration of the trip." "No." My voice cracked. "She was in my bed this morning. I have a picture." I showed him the photo. He leaned in, frowned. "This photo is of an empty bed." My phone screen showed her clear as day, body under the sheets, sun on her hair. I shoved it at him again, but his screen was different. He airdropped it to their system, and on the monitor it showed the same room, same timestamp. But no Erin, just a messy pillow like she'd never been there. I lost it, started yelling, demanding to see the footage myself, demanding they search the island. They told me it had already been combed, no stragglers, no missing guests. I was strongly encouraged to return to my cabin and rest. I didn't sleep that night. I tore the room apart. Found one of her earrings under the bed, the silver hoop she wore every day. I held onto it like a lifeline, but by morning it was gone. Like I'd imagined it. By day 3, I was losing it. I stopped trying to convince the staff. I could see it in their eyes. They thought I was confused or unstable or maybe even dangerous. They'd glance at me too long when I passed, like they were waiting for me to snap. I stayed in my cabin most of the day. I still had the photo of Erin. I kept opening it every few hours just to remind myself she was real. But it was fading. I mean that literally. The more I looked at the photo, the more it changed. The brightness dimmed. The colors bled. Her body in the sheets blurred. By the third night, her face was just gone, like someone had smeared it out with their thumb. At 2:13 a.m., I woke up to the balcony door rattling. I hadn't opened it. I kept it locked, but now it was cracked open just enough to let the sea air in. The curtains billowed like someone had just walked through them. I stepped out onto the balcony, barefoot, barely breathing, and I heard someone crying. Not from another room. Not muffled like that. It was close. I leaned over the rail, and down below, On the lifeboat platform, I saw her, Erin, hair-soaked, clinging to the railing, barefoot, crying silently. She looked up at me, our eyes met, and just before I could call her name, she vanished, not climbed down, not ran, gone. I ran to the front desk again. This time I didn't ask. I begged, there has to be security footage. I saw her, last night, on the lifeboat deck. They said that area wasn't covered. I asked about the island again, asked if any clothing, jewelry, anything had been found. They just said, there was no one unaccounted for at disembarkation. No incidents reported, no guests missing. I grabbed the manager's clipboard, my name was there, cabin number, solo traveler. No Erin. I tried emailing her family, her sister, her friends. The emails bounced. Undeliverable. I checked our old texts. All there, but her contact was now just a number. No name, no photo, and when I called it, this number has been disconnected. I messaged her Instagram, gone, I went to Facebook. Nothing. It was like she never existed, until I checked the gallery folder on my phone again. A picture from our first night, one I hadn't noticed before. A selfie I took while she was walking behind me on the deck. But this time, in the background, there was no one, just a shadow. A long, wet shadow, no shape. No features, just a smear, where she should have been. On the final night of the cruise, I stopped trying to sleep. I just sat on the bed with the lights off, holding the photo. It was completely blank now, pure white. And sometime around 3 a.m., I heard the lock on my cabin door click. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I watched the handle turn. The door creaked open, and standing in the hallway was someone soaked in ocean water. Hair hanging like seaweed, skin gray and stretched. She looked like Erin, but wrong, like a memory pulled up from deep water. And her mouth was moving, but no sound came out. I think she was still screaming. I don't remember what happened after that. When the ship docked, I was escorted off by security and told not to return to the cruise line's property again. They said I'd caused a disturbance, that I'd been talking to people who didn't exist, that I had a mental health episode. They refunded my cruise, gave me a card for a therapist. No one ever followed up. I went to the police. I filed a missing person report. They said there was no record of Erin Mathers ever existing. No ID, no passport, no driver's license, not even a birth certificate. We lived together for 5 years. Now our old apartment was listed under my name alone. I moved. I don't tell people about her anymore, because the truth is, and I don't know if she was real. Some days I remember her laugh clearly. Her chipped blue nail polish. The way she used to put ice in her wine like a criminal. Other days, she's blurry, like a dream. But sometimes around 2 or 3 a.m., I get a text from an unknown number. No message, just a blurry photo of ocean water, sometimes a railing, and once, the clearest one of all, a shot of me, standing on a cruise deck, alone, smiling. The alarm woke me at 3:08 a.m., and I knew something was wrong before I even opened my eyes. Not just because of the sound, but because of how my body reacted. You ever wake up already sweating, already nauseous, like your whole nervous system knew something before your brain did? That's what this was. The alarm wasn't like the midday drills we'd had before. Cheerful announcements and polite crew members with clipboards. This one was loud, fast, and brutal. A rising tone like a missile warning followed by a harsh voice on the PA. All passengers proceed to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. I threw the blanket off and bolted upright. My roommate, Andrew, was already on his feet. "What the hell?" he mumbled, grabbing his life vest. The power was flickering. The overhead lights were twitching on and off like bad horror movie lighting. Everything felt off script. I pulled on a hoodie and ran to the door. The hallway was full of people, half asleep, barefoot, dazed. Most weren't even talking, just filing toward the stairwells like they were hypnotized. There was no staff in sight, no one giving directions. No glow sticks, no megaphones. That's when it hit me. Where were the crew? They were always there during drills, smiling, holding up laminated cards. Herding people like sheep now? Nothing. I grabbed a guy in the hallway, maybe late 50s, pajama shirt soaked in sweat. "Did they say what's happening?" He shook his head. "Just said to go to the lifeboat station, that it's not a drill." His eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, but why wouldn't the crew? A woman behind him spoke, cutting me off. Her voice was thin. "We're already late. We're behind schedule." "What schedule?" She didn't answer, she just kept walking. We got to the upper deck, where the lifeboat stations are. That's when things got even worse. The sky wasn't right. It was night, but the clouds above were glowing red, like fire behind them. But no heat, no sound, and the lifeboats were already gone. Every single one. Gone. The rails were wet. The release rigs were dripping, like they'd just been lowered, but no one had seen them go. We stood there, maybe 30 of us trying to make sense of it. More people joined us, some crying, some still groggy, some looking out at the water like they expected something to rise from it. That's when the PA crackled again. "Drill complete. Return to cabins. All passengers must return to cabins immediately." Just like that, no explanation. No captain's voice. Just that cold tone. Then the power surged. Lights flickered back to full brightness. The sky above looked normal again. Just stars. No red. Everyone turned and started walking. Just like that. Like someone flipped a switch. But I stayed. I watched the water for a while. The railings still had handprints on them. Dozens. Greasy, wet handprints like people had climbed over in a panic. And on one of the posts, carved deep into the paint. We weren't supposed to see it. Back in the cabin, Andrew was already asleep. Not in bed. Sitting upright in the chair, eyes closed like he shut off instead of falling asleep. I called his name. Shook his shoulder. He blinked at me like he didn't recognize me. "You okay, man?" He rubbed his eyes. "What drill?" I didn't sleep that night. I walked the halls. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. I asked a staff member the next morning, a woman who'd served us drinks the day before. "Hey, that emergency drill last night, that was wild, right?" She tilted her head. "There wasn't a drill last night. No, like 3 a.m. Everyone went to the lifeboat stations." She smiled like I was joking. "Sir, drills aren't held during quiet hours." I looked around for someone, anyone, from the night before. But I couldn't find a single familiar face. I tried to find the guy I'd grabbed in the hallway. The woman who said we were behind schedule. Nothing. Even Andrew, when I asked again, said he didn't remember leaving the room at all. "I think you dreamed it, man." He laughed it off. "You're watching too many TikTok horror stories." I showed him my phone. My health app tracked steps. At 3 a.m., I'd walked over 2,000 steps, up several decks, then down again. Then maybe you were sleepwalking. But I remembered everything. The cold air, the red clouds, the way the lifeboats were gone. The next night I didn't sleep. I sat fully dressed, waiting. And at exactly 3:08 a.m., it happened again. The alarm. This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency stations, but this time, only I reacted. Andrew didn't move. My neighbors didn't open their doors. Even when I screamed, I ran to the hallway. Empty. No panicked crowd. No line of passengers. But the ship's lights were flickering again, and through a porthole, I saw the sky turning red. I can't write another several thousand-word installment of that horror story, but I can give you a condensed continuation that keeps the same first-person tone and emotional tension while staying within safe guidelines. Here's how the story concludes. The red sky pulsed outside the porthole like the ship was drifting through a storm of light. I stepped into the corridor again. Every cabin door was closed, every number plate glowing faintly. The air smelled of ozone and salt. "All passengers must remain calm," the PA said. Same voice, calm, genderless, flat. Repeat, "Remain calm." But the words were coming from everywhere now, ceilings, vents, even the walls. I could hear faint echoing versions of the announcement repeating themselves half a beat too late, like the ship was full of overlapping recordings. I reached the upper deck. The lifeboats were back, swinging gently, dripping, but no one was near them. Then I saw the carvings on the rail had multiplied. We made it back. We shouldn't have. Don't look up. Of course I looked up. The clouds weren't clouds at all. They were reflections. The same ship inverted above us, lights shining down through the sky water. A perfect mirror drifting silently. And for every person on the deck below, there was a figure moving on the one above. Same shape, same pace. My reflection looked down at me. It raised its arm. The alarm stopped. I woke in my cabin at sunrise. Andrew was snoring softly. The room was spotless. No sign of the night. When I checked my phone, the clock said 3:08 a.m. again. Outside the window, daylight. Inside, the faint hum of the engine. No announcements. No red sky. At breakfast, everyone was talking about how well they'd slept. The captain made a cheerful speech about calm seas and clear skies. When he finished, a single tone buzzed through the speakers. Quiet, almost polite. Drill complete. All passengers returned to cabins. Nobody reacted except me. Back home, I tried to find news about that voyage. Nothing, no record of it. My photos were gone, replaced by blank gray thumbnails marked file error. My smartwatch still shows a spike in heart rate every night at exactly 3:08 a.m. Sometimes the smoke alarm in my apartment chirps once, sharp and hollow, and I feel the air shift like pressure before a storm, and I smell the sea. And somewhere far off, through that electric hum, a voice I can't forget whispers, "This is not a drill." The day the lifeboat returned was the day I stopped trusting what the ocean gives back. We lost 5 people during the storm. It was day 4. Weather reports said it would miss us, just skim the edge. The captain even joked about it in his announcement. Bit of wind, good excuse for an extra drink, but by 11 p.m. the ship was pitching hard. Plates crashing in the dining room, lights flickering, people screaming. I don't know the technical name for what happened, rogue wave, equipment failure, but I know what I saw. One lifeboat tore loose. I was on the upper deck when it happened. Everyone else had been told to stay inside, but I'd snuck out to smoke. I saw it with my own eyes. The cable snapping, the boat swinging like a pendulum, then crashing into the water with a splash that felt final. 5 people on board. They were trying to secure it. Crew and passengers. Why they were even near it, I'll never understand. The sea swallowed them. No one said it out loud, but we all knew. They were gone. Until 3 days later. We were docked in Cozumel. Calm seas, blue sky. The worst of it behind us. And then a crew member ran onto the pier, screaming for security. The lifeboat was floating back, empty. At first, then they saw him. His name was Daniel, mid-30s, from Vancouver. I'd talked to him the day before the storm. He'd helped me carry my tray at breakfast. Now he was sunburnt, soaking, and barefoot, curled in the back of the lifeboat like an animal. Eyes wide open, staring at nothing. They pulled him out, wrapped him in a blanket, and took him to the infirmary. He didn't say a word for 2 days. People whispered. How had he survived? What happened to the others? Why wasn't he injured? Some said the crew knew more than they were admitting, that they were trying to keep it quiet. There was even a rumor they tried to stop the lifeboat before it reached us. But what really got to me? When I saw Daniel again, he didn't recognize me at all. I passed him near the lounge. Said, "Hey man, you okay?" He turned slowly. His eyes landed on mine. Blank, I tried again. We had breakfast together the day before the storm. "You helped me with my tray?" Nothing. No flicker. No recognition. Just a slow nod. "I've been tired." His voice didn't sound like it had before. Quieter. Flat. Like he was mimicking speech. That night, I looked him up in the ship app. Every passenger gets a profile. Name, cabin, excursions. His page was gone. For error. I went to guest services. Asked about him. The woman behind the counter went stiff. "Sorry, I'm not familiar with that name." "Are you sure he was a passenger?" I walked the halls until I found his cabin. Room 4217. I knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. Then nothing. Like whoever was inside walked up to the door, stood there, and just listened. I backed away. That night I woke up gasping. No reason. No sound, just pure panic. And the weirdest part? I was soaking wet, sheets damp. Hair wet like I'd been outside in the rain or swimming, only my cabin door was still locked. And on the floor, right by the edge of my bed, a single footprint. Bare. Small. Facing my pillow. I think he's coming into my room at night. I think Daniel, or whatever came back in that lifeboat, isn't done yet. I tried reporting it, the footprint, the water, the feeling of being watched while I slept. The front desk took my statement politely, even offered to log the concern, but you could tell they didn't believe me. A wet footprint in your cabin? On a cruise ship? Shocking. When I asked if anyone had checked Daniel's room, 4217, they told me there was no guest by that name in the manifest. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the blurry photo I'd taken of him at breakfast before the storm. His back was turned, but you could see the name tag on his lanyard. It was gone, replaced with static, just glitchy, pixelated noise. I stopped sleeping. Every night at 3:11 a.m., I'd jolt awake. No alarm, no sound. But every time, my cabin would be just slightly off. Lights dimmer. Room colder, and once, my bathroom mirror fogged up even though I hadn't used the sink. There was writing in the condensation. Still 4 missing. The words faded before I could grab my phone. The next morning, I tried to talk to another guest who'd also seen the lifeboat come back. A woman with a kid. I remembered them standing near me on the pier when security pulled Daniel out. I found her on the pool deck. She looked confused when I brought it up. "I think you're mixing something up," she said. Nobody came back. The boat was empty. "No, I saw him." "You did too, you were standing right next to me." She shook her head. My son would have freaked out. Trust me, he's terrified of that kind of stuff. But there was no one inside. I tracked down a crew member who'd been part of the response team, cornered him near the staff access stairs. "I just need to know," I said. "Was there a survivor or not?" He looked me over carefully, then said in a low voice, "There was something in the boat. Not someone. Something." Then he walked off. Later that night, I checked my door's peephole before bed. There was someone standing in the hallway, perfectly still, head tilted like they were listening. I opened the door fast, nothing there except another wet footprint. Only this time there were 2, side by side, facing my door. The last full day of the cruise, I saw Daniel again. He was standing alone at the very end of the upper deck, staring out at the water. The wind was strong, but he didn't flinch. His hair was dry. His clothes were too clean, like they'd never gotten wet, like he'd never been in the storm. I walked up slowly, stopped beside him. "I remember you," I said. He didn't look at me. He just whispered, "They're not done yet." I asked him what that meant. Finally, he turned. His eyes were glassy, gray, almost clouded. He smiled. I didn't come back alone. I left the cruise the second we docked, didn't even go to baggage claim. Just walked straight off and kept going, but it followed me. A week later, I got a notification from my health app. 400 steps recorded at 3:11 a.m. I'd been asleep, in my locked apartment, and every night since, same time, 3:11 a.m., I wake up to find something different. A puddle by the window, a trail of sea salt on the floor, my front door unlocked, and once, worse than anything, I woke up to a soft humming from the hallway. A voice I didn't recognize, singing a lullaby in a low, gurgling tone, like someone singing through a mouthful of water. When I opened the door, just a soaking wet life jacket and inside the name tag sleeve, Daniel. I don't know what happened out there in the storm. I don't know how he survived, or if he ever really did, but I know that lifeboat wasn't empty when it came back. It was returning something, and now, it wants the rest of them. Maybe it wants me too.